Hello everybody, my name is Ninjo X, the Enlightened Gamer. Welcome to another installment of Enlightened Vlogs. I thought I'd spice this vlog up with something a little bit more edgy, a little bit more controversial, something a little bit more topical than what I've been talking about up to this point. Tropes versus women in gaming. Feminism. And the objectivity of female video game characters. I won't try and dispute that the first couple of early games, especially for the NES, didn't objectivize women to an extent. Because they did. But it was a different time. A time when people didn't really care as much about that thing. When people thought that video games were just flashing lights and yay. People know better now. At least a little bit. That end, they seem to like to be offended by anything that exists in some way. But I wanted to talk about a couple of specific women in gaming. I'm not going to talk about Peach much because really she is the ideal trope as far as women in gaming go. Now, I know what some of you guys are saying, but in a couple of games, Peach is actually pretty awesome. Yeah, all of those are RPGs. And in one of the RPGs, she's a straight-up healer, which is also kind of another JRPG trope for female characters. Aeris was a healer. Shauna, from Legend of the Dragoon, also a healer. Except that her character is the most broken character in the game, which is something you can't say about Aerith or Peach. Well, you can say about Peach for a couple of games, but not many. Anyways, I mainly wanted to talk about Samus. Samus Aran. Samus Aran seems to be the hardest character, female character in gaming to talk about. Because on the exterior, she's an incredibly rough, incredibly tough, incredibly awesome, nearly unstoppable bounty hunter that works for herself and kicks everybody's butt. And she is. Samus is awesome. But if we're keeping it real, at least in the NES and SNES games starring Samus, your completion percentage results in her getting more naked for you at the end of the game. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing vulgar in either of them. It's just that she strips her power suit. Now, I know that this is a shocking reveal and that people weren't really objectivizing it, at least not the first time they saw it. But I can see how it could be taken that way. Namely, I wanted to talk about Samus in her first reboot title, Metroid Zero Mission. Why Zero Mission? Because this is where Zero Suit Samus was first introduced. Samus, in the two games prior, Super Metroid and Metroid, I can't speak on in regards to Metroid 2 because I haven't played it. But in Metroid and Super Metroid, Samus at the end of the game doesn't really look like much. She just kind of looks like a blocky, pixelated, woman-like creature with skin and clothing. But in Zero Mission, for the very first time, you get a clear view of what Samus looks like without her suit. Tall, blonde, slender, voluptuous, busty, curvy beauty. And I can understand why someone who's never played Zero Mission might get the idea that she's being over-sexualized. I don't think she is, at least not in Zero Mission. Spoiler alerts for Zero Mission coming up. In Zero Mission, Your whole point is to defeat the space pirates Ridley and Mother Brain. When you defeat Mother Brain, you escape from planet Zebes just like in the original. But unlike in the original, the space pirates aren't taking any of your crap. And they shoot you right back down. For Samus, flying in her power suit, especially early on before it fully integrated into her biological systems, would have been bulky, cumbersome, and uncomfortable. So it's natural that she removed her power suit to pilot her ship off of Zebes. But when she crashes, what happens in every Metroid game whenever anything happens to Samus? She loses her power-ups. But in Zero Mission, she doesn't get reduced to the basic power suit with no upgrades. She gets reduced to the Zero suit. The entire power suit is destroyed. Varia, Gravity, Screw Attack, Morph Ball, Bombs, Missiles, Buster. All that she has left is her defense pistol. And it makes sense that the Zero suit would be skin tight in this sense, because it really helps you get the feeling that you're defenseless. These enemies that you were flying through, enemies that were nothing but cannon fodder for you, are now really threatening because you can't take any freaking damage or deal any damage. So you have to be sneaky. You have to be careful. Now, I'm going to say something that's I think is really interesting about Samus's character in this game. In this game, she's not muscular. She's tall. She's acrobatic. But she's not muscular, and she doesn't seem tough. She doesn't have any exterior scars or anything that would indicate a very rough lifestyle, because her power suit absorbs most all of the damage and does most of the work for her in battle. Well, the lighting is just awful in this room. I hope you guys don't mind. But basically, I feel like this is kind of a Green Lantern effect. I can't speak for the comics because, well, comics were a little bit before my time. But at least in the Justice League TV show back in the 90s and early 2000s, the Green Lantern always seemed to be losing his lantern. But he refused to duck out of battle. Even if it meant fighting supervillains that took Batman and Superman combining strength to stand a chance against, he never backed down, because he was more than his ring. Even though on the outside he just seemed like a human, he wanted to prove that there was a reason he was chosen to be part of the Corps. And he usually does so pretty effectively, then gets his ring back and proves that he's worthy of being a member of the League as well. Anyways, the point I'm getting at is that Samus looks pretty. Except for her height, she looks very dainty. Yes, she's nimble, but it's all evasion. It's not physical combat. She's not a tough neck. She's not a bare knuckle brawler. And she was never meant to be. Ugh. So when you're stripped of your power suit and you have only the Zero suit, you really feel like you only have the skin on your back. Like you might as well be running around naked. Because you might as well be. The stun pistol isn't worth jack squat. You don't have any armor. Pretty much all you can do is crawl in tight spaces that the non-morph ball power suit wouldn't have let you get in. But in these moments that you feel truly helpless, Samus's character in you truly emerges. Just because you got all of your power taken away doesn't mean you're willing to step down, doesn't mean you're willing to give up. And it doesn't mean she was willing to give up either. Even though she wasn't covered from head to toe in scars, even though she wasn't muscular, even though she was sexy, she didn't let that get in her way. Even though she lost the very thing that made her a strong fighter, she was able to fight well enough to get it back. That is not objectivity. That is true character. Now let's transfer that over to Smash Brothers. How I love Kirby and I love playing Smash. But you get so many of your facts wrong trying to do fan service. First, there was the sins that I've counted in my Pokemon Blue LP about you using pretty much exclusively information from the Pokemon anime for your games, for Smash Brothers. Now I get to talk about Zero Suit Samus. The whole point of the Zero Suit was to make Samus feel helpless and make you tougher for the experience. Zero Suit Samus in Smash Brothers is arguably stronger than the Power Suit Samus. This is just inaccurate. I don't care about Samus's model changing slightly for the Zero Suit, because it doesn't make sense that the Zero Suit's so strong in the first place. I mean, don't get me wrong about the acrobatic stuff, that's fine. But Zero Suit Samus should have the lowest damage output in the game. And that is a fact. That's what bothers me about Smash Brothers, as far as Zero Suit goes. Now, I know some of you guys, a lot of you guys are probably big Smash fans, and I am a Smash... I was a huge Smash fanatic from way back. Way back, the original Smash and Melee. And I got Brawl, and I enjoyed Brawl. And I'm definitely going to get Smash 4. Eventually. When I can finally afford a Wii U. Because let me be straight with you, this equipment is expensive. Anyway, that's one positive trope. One very positive female character. Let me tell you of a couple others. It's weird that these people think that only gorgeous women exist in video games. Now, I'm not going to talk about non-main player characters, but I will talk about Chell from Portal. Chell is completely mute, a very common characteristic in protagonists in video games. I'll link. Wow, I wish I could breathe. Just give me a second. I'm just going to cut away while I try and dislodge this from my throat. Sorry. Chell is one of the absolutely most ingenious and most intelligent characters in gaming. Period. She did what thousands could not. She escaped the Aperture testing facility. She defeated GLaDOS not once, but twice. She's still alive. When hundreds of men and women were dying around her, her pure determination and craftiness led to her escape. Chell, on the off chance that you can get a look at her in the game, is not overly beautiful. She's very, very plain looking, very average looking. She's not as fat as GLaDOS constantly says that she is. Being more of an average weight. Average size. She's not particularly tall, not buff, not slender. She's right in the middle. And honestly, unless you figure it out, you probably don't know you're playing as a female character at all in the first Portal game. At least not until you get a look at yourself through the portals. And it doesn't matter because Chell is awesome. Now let's talk about another game character that they attacked. Zelda. Zelda is so misunderstood. Yes, it's true, in the first couple of games, Zelda is basically the damsel. She is the seventh sage. Your goal is to save her. At least unlike Peach in the first Mario game, your goal isn't to save her for your own benefit because she is female and female do things to you. You're supposed to save her so that she can unite her power with yours and you can save the Kingdom of Hyrule. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's no objectivity involved. Skip ahead to the 3D Zeldas. Because really the 2D ones are a bad example. Let's go to Ocarina of Time. Spoiler alert for Ocarina of Time. At the beginning of the game, Zelda's just a child. And she tells you to go get the spiritual stones and that you'll go save the world. Yay! Very naive. Well, a lot of people tend to forget. She kept herself by herself, safe from Ganon's grasp, for 7 years. 7 years! Early Zeldas couldn't keep themselves safe from Ganon's grasp for 7 minutes. And how does she do it? She uses the power of the Triforce of Wisdom. Spoiler alerts, I'm serious. To become Sheik. Now, this is another bit... I don't really blame Hal for this, because Sheik really doesn't have much of a character. But that's his point, is that he's a shadow. You don't know who he is, you don't know what he wants. You just know he's there and he's gone, and he doesn't want to kill you, which is pretty cool. Let's look at the real Sheik. The Sheik from Ocarina. Sheik's main method of escape is one that Link can utilize as well, throwing a Deku Nut and then leaving while you're stunned. Sheik is also armed with the Goddess Harp. The Goddess Harp, even though it seems like an ordinary harp in Ocarina, retcon canonity says that the Goddess Harp is an ancient lost instrument, possibly with even greater power than the Ocarina of Time. Possibly. It's not a guarantee. But anyways, I have gone for a really long time in this vlog, but I don't care because I'm having a good time. What does she know? The teleportation songs. Everything about his character in Ocarina is about getting away. It's not about getting involved. It's not about combat. It's about escaping, evading. And he did it for 7 years. Until he finally reveals himself to be Zelda, and Ganon uses his immense power to capture her right in front of Link. If anything, this doesn't make women look weak, it makes men look weak, because Link is unable to save her even though she's being captured right in front of his face. I could go on with other positive female characters. I could talk about Bastila from the Knights of the Old Republic. I could talk about Claire, who, despite how annoying she is a very positive female character from the Pokemon games. I could talk about the leader of the Elite Four in Gen 4. I could talk about I could talk about Kazooie. Kazooie is a female. All of these extremely tough, extremely well-earned, not all stunningly beautiful, over-sexualized characters. I'm not saying there isn't over-sexualization, because there certainly is, for both men and women. To not accept that this is an issue would be foolhardy. But to over-exaggerate every little bit of it would be equally as foolhardy. It is an issue, it does need to be addressed, but it's not the end of the world, and likely you're making more of a big deal out of it than it needs to be. I've been Ninjo X. Until next time, stay enlightened.